Good morning. We're supposed to have a panel this morning, and things have gotten a little crazy in the world, as you all know. But we still have one out of our three. I'm very glad to be talking with Stacy Sides this morning. Stacy is in our admissions department. And so I'm just going to let you start off with just telling us a little bit about your family and how you ended up on this panel.
My youngest daughter is 19 now. She was born with cerebral palsy, microcephaly, and the list goes on. So those are the two main diagnoses. She is both mentally and physically challenged. Her mental level is that of about a 4 or 5 year old. She has trouble walking, of course. Her gait and her muscle spasticity is getting worse as she gets older. So life is challenging, but it's also very rewarding because nobody gives love like her. But I don't know what else to say except you're welcome to come meet her anytime. I'm always looking for caretakers for her part-time.
Remind us of her name.
Shelby Sides.
Shelby, yes. And you mentioned a little bit about Shelby. Tell us a little bit about Shelby's language and speech skills.
She is primarily nonverbal, but she will say a few words, mama, daddy, and it's not all that clear. And she'll say for sissy, for her big sister, and she will say bye-bye all day long. Mostly she has some sign language, she'll tell you to eat, and she wants more, and she wants to drive the bus or go bye-bye. She'll tell you about sports now. She'll tell you football, baseball, and touchdown. She likes to do touchdown.
That's right, because you bought that big football beanbag for her.
Yeah.
I remember. Is it?
Yeah.
Was it a beanbag? Is that what it was?
Well, it's a chair.
A chair at the student festival
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and her signs are a little different than what they should be. Like football is actually like this, but she does it like this. And she'll do Jesus and tell you he's in her heart, and she'll sign church. She understands most everything you tell her. She's gotten pretty good at following multiple commands. It just might take her a few minutes for it to click, but she can do it, and she's just stubborn sometimes. So I always have to tell her therapist about that you gotta make her work, because some kids really can't understand and comprehend, but some understand just enough to know how to manipulate the therapy session, and Shelby's one of them.
Okay, so Shelby is in the Bryant
She's in the
School
Bryant
District,
High School.
and she still gets OT services.
She gets OT. She gets all the services.
So we have 3 or 4 students doing level 1s in Bryant right now, so it's quite possible somebody watching has met Shelby.
Yeah, nobody's seen me.
And so tell us a little bit about her OT services right now and what they're working on.
Well, it seems like every year her OT person changes, but but they're really good about, at the beginning of every school year, we do, of course, her annual evaluation, and they set her goals and what have you, and ask me if there's anything I want specifically to see with her. And so that's always a really good thing, and I can call or email them at any time and say, hey, I've noticed this. And so far, Shelby's a little bit more challenging, I think, in OT than anything. Well, speech is pretty well. She's got some serious issues, but her fingers don't quite work. So like writing and coloring, I think most kids 4-year-old level would love to color. Not my kid.
It's hard for her.
It's very hard for her. She has a hard time holding on to the spoon or the fork, things like that. She knows where it needs to go, but it doesn't always connect. But they try to work on her with that, and even brushing her teeth. They do things like that at school. They try to get her to do, I think the other day, she fell asleep on them. She's on some new medicine, so she was not cooperating. They were trying to get her to stack some blocks.
Okay.
And she has a tendency she knows what she's supposed to be doing, but she's looking over here. So it's really hard to, sometimes even at home, you know, I have to move her head.
Yeah.
Shelby,
Yeah.
look at me.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, if you would share with us just a little bit about when you first learned about Shelby's disability.
oh goodness.
Yeah, specifically how the people, especially the professionals around you, were hurtful or helpful during that process.
Well, that's a sensitive subject. I hate to say it, but I wasn't truly informed of Shelby's condition until she was almost a year old. At birth, unbeknownst to me, I was never directly told. We were in the hospital 5 days. We saw 5 different pediatricians. And I was asked a million questions. And I was told her head was a little small, they wanted to run more tests. And no one would ever answer that question of mine of why. Why? What's wrong? They never would answer. Well, we just want to check some things. No, you need to tell me why you want to do a CT on my newborn and
Right.
things. So I don't know if, you know, obviously the doctors were probably communicating, but they did not. They probably thought this one told her, this one told, but nobody ever directly told me. I mean, literally, whenever they came to do her initial APGAR and stuff, the doctor that was in there, and I love him, he still sees her today, but, I mean, I had all my family in the room, you know, so he said, we need to talk about her, a few things, and I said, okay, what's wrong? And he said, well, her head's a little small. I said, well, what do you mean? And he looked around the room and he said, you know what, you just enjoy your family, we'll talk about this later. And so he was being professional and private in that sense, but he never came back. And then, of course, the next day it was a new doctor, and the next day it was another doctor, and the next day it was another doctor. So they all apparently had different days of the week they came to the hospital.
Was this your group of pediatricians? So they, okay, yeah.
And so literally, I didn't understand. My sister was doing research online for me, and of course I was in a complete panic because all I heard was her head's a little small. And that's all I knew for a long time. When she was 6 months old, we finally did a CT scan. There was nothing extra on there that they expected. So I told them, y'all need to back off and quit worrying me. And by the time she was 9 months old, though, she had not been thriving at all. She didn't sleep. She cried constantly. What little hair she had, she pulled out. She would claw her face. I had to quit breastfeeding after like 2 weeks because she couldn't latch on, and we even noticed that at the hospital. And I mean, I got into an argument with the breastfeeding nurse because I was so angry. I was like, she lost 10 ounces in 1 week. In 5 days, she lost 10 ounces because she wasn't getting nutrition. And I thought it was my milk or something I was doing wrong. And even though this was not my first baby, something wasn't right. And I was like, you know, just put it in a syringe and give it to her, you know, but she could not latch on. So that never really, none of that ever truly got addressed. So I did my best I could, you know, taking her home, and she cried and cried and cried, and she did not sleep. I'm going to fast forward to 9-month appointment. We saw the oldest physician in the clinic. And I specifically asked for him, and of course he was perplexed whenever he saw us. He says, I don't think I've ever seen you before. I said, no, sir. I said, I picked you on purpose. I said, you've got the the wisdom behind you. I said, something's not right. I don't know what's wrong, but something's not right. She was not rolling over. She was 9 months old. Was not rolling over, not even attempting to crawl, did not babble, coo, or any of that kind of stuff. She did nothing but scream and cry. And he was very honest and said, I'll be honest, I do not know, but I'm going to send you to someone who will. So he set us up an appointment a month later over at Children's Hospital with the one of the pediatric behavioral specialists. And the minute, so that was torturous, you know, of course. I went home Googling stuff. Oh,
Right.
that was
Right.
a major mistake. And so we went to Children's, and the minute Dr. Casey walked in the room, I said, okay, what do we need to do to figure this out? He said, I can tell you right now by looking at her. And I'm like, do what? And he said that she's got microcephaly. I said, okay, explain, what is that? How do you know? Just by looking at her.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, she has microcephaly, if you look it up. It's got some predominant features, the way her eyes look, and everybody always compliments on how beautiful her eyes are. But her ears kind of stick out a little bit, and not a little bit, they stick out. You could just tell, whenever I finally looked up microcephaly and started looking at pictures, it made complete sense. So he started running tests, and I said, what do we do now? And he says, well, we need to run some tests and find out exactly what the source of it was. Okay, so was it genetic? Was it just happened? What? So it took, every time they got a test result back, they did call me and said it wasn't this, it's not this.
Mm-hmm.
So this was, she was born in January, this was November. She was turning a year old, probably 2 weeks before her first birthday. Dr. Casey's nurse called me for like the 5th or 6th time and said, we finally have a result. And I was like, what? She said, well, I'm going to let him explain it to you, and you should come to the office and blah, blah, blah. So they got me in right away, and they said she had a chromosome deletion, 7q35. The way they explained it was that when the X and Y chromosome came together, this is literally how they did it. It came together, and it just kind of like chipped a piece of it off, and it fell off.
Huh.
I know. I mean, it was the craziest thing in the world, but they said that she's got a piece missing. She's got a deletion, and there's no way to get it back. So, and like Down syndrome, which is a trisomy, she's got a deletion. She's missing something. And it wasn't honestly until she was 2 that I found out about the CP part of things, because of a MRI they did, and they found an abnormality on her spine. So, yeah, there was a lot of things we never knew until much later on. So, I mean, we started therapies immediately as soon as she got diagnosed that January, around the first birthday. She started getting her therapies, and of course, then when we found out more, as we found out more, things changed. But, I mean, I did my best at early intervention.
Right. Well, a year is good, and it sounds like that first year was scary and
It
hard.
was.
And
And she didn't even sleep all night until she was 3 and a half.
yeah.
Until we saw a behavioral specialist at Children's, at Dennis Developmental Center, because she never slept. 3.5 years, I mean, she might sleep 2 hours at a time.
So just for my own curiosity now, were medications, is that how you ended up getting it?
Yeah, they started her out, I forget what the name of the medicine was, Clonopin, I think, and I didn't think she could get any worse, and I was wrong.
Yeah.
And so then we tried trazodone, and trazodone worked. But it did definitely do what it was supposed to do, but it chilled her out so much it was hard to get her to do anything. She
Right.
was zoned out
Right.
completely,
Mhm.
but she was sleepy.
Yeah,
And she was no longer hurting herself.
right.
And her hair finally started growing and she started thriving. She actually started gaining weight. I mean, she went for a year without gaining weight,
Wow.
several times in her life. The way Dr. Casey explained things is, in retrospect with microcephaly, at some point her brain would stop growing altogether. And until she got to that max where we didn't see any more head circumference growth, that, we wouldn't know where she maxes out. So, initially he told me she may only function as a 3-month-old for the rest of her life. She may go up to 13 years old. So I'm thankful and grateful for 4.5, 5. So it can be really fun sometimes. She has a lot of bowel issues, a whole lot. That has been a battle from the day she was born.
Yeah.
She's got neurogenic bowel and bladder. So we've had 3 outpatient deflux procedures on her kidneys, and then 1 major surgery that they went in and actually did the deflux surgically. And we were in the hospital for 2 weeks with that. And they also placed a metrophenol in her belly button so we can cath her.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm not familiar with that.
Not many people
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
Apparently, it's a type of suprapubic catheter, but it's in her belly button. You can't even tell she's got it.
So you've essentially got a port in to be able, so is that your daily routine to do?
Every 3 hours.
catheterization? Yeah.
I mean, she can still go. They didn't clamp that part
Right,
off.
right.
So she can still go. She just does
Yeah.
not empty her bladder.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's such an, I mean, that's such a good thing,
It
to
is,
have that.
because for
to
a
be able
year
to
and a
do that.
half, I had
Yeah.
to do it
Yeah.
the traditional
yeah,
way,
exactly.
and that was not
Yeah.
fun to do to my baby.
Right, right.
So,
Well, I didn't know that even existed. I've learned something new today.
yeah, and it took me forever to learn how to spell it, but I finally did.
Tell us again the name of
It's
it.
called a metrophenol, but if you try to spell it or
Mhm.
Google it, it's mitrophan-off.
Okay, okay.
So, yeah, that's a different one, but, children's did it, urology,
Wow,
so
wow.
it's made a world of difference.
Right. So you've had, obviously you're still followed then by urology. Has she had other medical procedures,
Oh,
surgeries?
She's had 3 tethered cord release surgeries, and that's how I initially, whenever that first showed up, found out about her spine
Right,
issue. So then they
right.
were like, maybe she's spina bifida too. So
Uh-huh.
that's been a debate her whole life. Does she
Right.
or doesn't she? Or is it just the CP? Or,
Okay. So were there some orthopedic, like,
Oh, yeah.
what's tethering, that's just some little
Tethering of
places?
the
I know
cords.
it gets stuck, but what's?
well, it's not stuck, it gets tangled.
Yeah.
If you ever, I actually had the privilege of seeing a true spine.
Mhm.
But, all the nerve endings from your spine kind of dangle down,
Right.
and a tethered cord, literally, it gets twisted and
Okay.
tethered.
Yeah.
So they have to go in and release some of the tethers that
Yeah.
are wrapped around each other.
Okay.
And,
But they don't know exactly the root cause of why hers keeps.
no, I mean, it's the CP.
Yeah, okay.
But, so we've had that done 3 times, and that's the max you can have that
Wow.
surgery done.
Yeah,
And then, she had scoliosis, so we've had the spinal fusion done, so she has 2 titanium rods and
Rods.
22 screws,
okay.
in her spine. So her back, pretty much, she has been cut from her neck
Yeah,
down to above her booty crack.
yeah, those are major surgeries, all of them,
And then, her bladder and metrophenol, she's got a scar, like a emergency C-section scar.
yeah. Mhm.
So, but she's tough.
Yeah,
Her pain tolerance just floors me.
yeah,
she has to be really, really hurting
Mhm.
to express her pain. And the way they've described her, the way before she got on medication,
Mhm.
her brain, they said that it's not that, because I was always worried, all this screaming and crying was that she was in pain.
Yeah.
And
That
Dr.
first
Schultz
year.
said, the first 3 years.
Okay.
And Dr. Schultz said, no, it's not that she's in pain, it's confusion.
Mhm.
She kind of has what a brain injury patient would have,
Mhm.
and their brain sometimes in their head literally feels like it's being shook.
Mhm.
And so it's very confused and agitated and
Right.
all those kinds of
Mhm.
things. So
Mhm.
that's why she was getting so
Yeah.
upset
Yeah.
all the time.
Mhm.
So she literally did not truly smile until she was about 5.
Wow.
And that was when we switched medications.
Mhm.
We went to Respirol,
Mhm.
and I mean, I had a hell of a kid.
Wow.
I had a kid,
Yeah.
and she responded to me.
Yeah.
And she was happy, and she was,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was something else. And she really did start thriving then
Yeah.
and growing finally.
Yeah.
It's all been a very, very big trial.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
I don't have very good Sundays all the time. You know, she's getting older, I'm older. I'm thankful she can walk around by herself. I mean, her knees kind of knock together when she walks, but we have to be careful and just watch her.
Right.
So make sure she's got plenty of space and
Yeah.
won't hit her head or something if she falls. You know, early on in life, before she got better balance and stuff, you know, she would fall and whack her head immediately on the
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah.
And now she pretty much catches herself.
Okay. Good.
But,
So does she walk with any kind of assist, like a
she
walker?
just
or anything?
she
Wow.
uses AFOs.
Mhm.
We have a handicap stroller. It's
Mhm.
got the pads on it like a wheelchair,
Right.
or feet pads, I guess is what they're called. So that is what we use for long distances.
Yeah.
Because short distances is one thing, but to walk all over the mall or something like that, not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and
Well, she probably expends a whole lot of energy, I would say.
she gets tired very
Yeah.
easily, yes. So, and gets overstimulated, you know, going to Special Olympics and things like that. She
Yeah.
loves that stuff, loves it. But she is so exhausted
Yeah.
when she's done. I mean, but she doesn't want to leave. But when she gets overstimulated, even today, if she gets overstimulated too much for too long a period of time, it takes a while to calm her down
Mhm.
and settle her down. So, our biggest battle today is her bowels.
Yeah.
She has excessive gas, and it's horrible. And
That can be painful, do you? It's painful
it's
for her?
extremely
Yeah.
painful.
Oh, yeah.
And that's,
Yeah.
she has gotten aware now, that one of the ways she expresses herself, she's kind of regressed to the fact of, I'm gonna bite you, I'm gonna hit you,
Yeah.
I'm gonna,
Yeah.
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 She gets very aggressive. and-
When she's in pain, you think?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's not just that she's in a bad mood, she is in
Right.
pain.
Right.
And that's how I know that I've got to
Yeah.
do a good regimen on her and give her,
Mhm.
it's amazing,
Yeah.
it really
Yeah.
is. And they say it's all related to her spinal deformities,
Right.
you know. That's the majority of her issues. I mean, everything to do with her bowels and her bladder, all of it. So, I mean, she even had a sacral mass on her S3 that we had to have her removed when we did her 3rd tendon cord surgery.
Oh, wow. Just like a benign tumor there?
Mhm.
Mhm.
They said it was just a fatty mass.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of the confirmation from what I understand,
Yeah.
that spina bifida does play a role.
Right.
But we've never I've seen kids with spina bifida, and they're, you know, they're stuck in a wheelchair,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So she's got multiple issues, and sometimes I think there's still a lot of stuff we don't know.
Right, right. Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, it's interesting because we've been learning diagnosis by diagnosis, and it's not, doesn't always express itself.
I mean,
in
you
that
know, to
clear
say
cut.
she's got severe developmental delay, yeah, and it's related to the microcephaly. And then, you know, it was years and years and years before they literally changed her first diagnosis initially was microcephaly.
Mhm.
They did not change it to CP being primary
Mhm.
until 5 or 6, you know, after all the spinal issues started coming to light.
Right.
And so it was like, oh, I said, okay, so which one caused which? And they said, well, the chromosome deletion caused all of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But more than likely, the CP is primary
Mhm.
and the microcephaly is a result of. And I was like, okay. Whatever, code it however you need to get insurance to pay.
There we
We're
go.
good.
And give us what we need. Yes, yes. That's the good part of diagnoses, is they sometimes,
If they do it right.
they get you what you need, yes.
Yeah.
So if you would think back to for me, when you first started those early intervention services and your therapist, what did they do right and what did they do wrong?
I don't know the answer to that in the sense of, I was clueless.
Yeah.
I was clueless. I believed whatever they told me.
So were they helpful in terms
Yes.
of understanding things?
Yes,
And-
they were very, very patient with me because I was, of course, I felt like a brand new mom all over again because
Yeah,
it was a whole new ballgame.
yeah.
But yeah, they really, really tried to work, OT specific. One of Shelby's issues is when she wants like some raisins or something, she grabs with her whole hand
Mhm.
instead of just getting 1 or 2.
Right, right.
She has a really hard time putting these two together.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but on her hand, this thumb is all the way out this way.
Okay. Mhm.
I forget, somebody tried to tell me one time what it was, but I don't remember. So she, you know, grasping things, so that I know they've always still to this day work on some of those fine motor skills she really has trouble
Right.
with.
Mhm.
And I mean, there are times they can get her to work on it, times that she's
Yeah.
not having
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Fair enough, yeah. So you have a daughter, and you have another daughter, I guess I should say. You have 2 daughters. I mean, I
Yeah,
thought so much.
Shelby's big
So,
sister.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about their interaction as
Oh, my
sisters. And
They
yeah.
are, they are both attached to each other pretty good.
Yeah.
And Marissa has, you know, she's completely grown now. She's almost 5 years older than Shelby. And she wanted a baby sister so bad, but after one day of all that screaming and crying at home, she asked me to send her back. But Marissa grew up taking care of Shelby because I work full time. And so she always helped me, and she gave up most of her summers and things like that and stayed home with her sister. I mean, from the time she was in 6th grade,
Yeah,
she helped with her sister.
yeah.
I mean, once Shelby got to public school from
Mhm.
preschool.
Mhm.
So they have a very, very deep bond. And Shelby has, this tells you her intelligence level is there on some scale. When Marissa went off to college and didn't come home for a whole month, yeah.
That didn't fly with Shelby, huh?
No, you would have thought she was super excited and would run to her sister, and she just sat there and looked at her and turned around and walked away. She was mad at her. And I mean, she does. And now she will look at her sister and you know, because Marissa's got her own place, she's got her own life, she's a nurse. She's got a boyfriend now, a serious one, Lord help me. And the thing we've always done, you ask Shelby, who do you love? And she says, Sissy. Okay. So, now, and she still pretty much does that, but she will get to Marissa and she'll look at her and she'll just say, Mama. And it makes Marissa so mad. So she is showing her contempt that she is not happy, that she is not there every day like she used to be. So, I mean, and this has been going on since she left for college in 2014.
Right.
So 5 years later, she is still showing
Still
her.
not having it, huh?
I mean, she loves her sister, she wants her sister, and she asks me for her all the time. She mostly wakes up asking for Sissy and goes to bed asking for Sissy. But she does not understand why she's not there. So, and I mean, Marissa can get her and take her to her house and try to entertain her over there.
No.
She don't like it. She just don't like it.
That's so interesting, yeah.
I know, it's very interesting. So, and her boyfriend, he's planning to propose soon, and it's really sweet. He's in the Army, and so Shelby she very, very rarely makes a sign for other people. You know, she does mama, she does daddy, and she'll just say sissy all day long. But she has come up with a sign for Kyle.
All right, so he's in.
And I told him, I said, well, in that case, I guess you're a permanent fixture, so you better go ahead and propose.
So what's Kyle's sign? All right, oh, with Army, that's interesting.
So, because he's almost always wearing his hat.
And
so, and so we tell her all the time, and she's very patriotic. So it's kind of funny that he came into our life because she thinks saying the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star, oh my goodness, the Star Spangled Banner, she just goes berserk. I mean, she loves music and stuff anyway, but for some reason, that flag, she's super excited about it. So it's kind of sweet.
That is neat. That is neat how that ties together.
I know. I'm not sure if she just really got to him because he, you know, they've got the U.S. flag on their shoulder.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know, but she loves it.
Worked in his favor anyway, right?
It definitely has,
So one of the things we've been talking about a little are the transitions then, like from high school to what's going to happen next. You said Shelby's 19, so I'm sure that's
yes,
on your mind.
It is, and I mean, I could let her graduate this year. She can stay till she's 21, and I have debated back and forth. Yes, with every transition from preschool to elementary, from elementary to middle school to high school, I'm the one that couldn't adjust, not her. I was adamant. I had to go to the school, I had to see the classroom, and I had to meet the teacher prior to classes starting. And make sure things were as I wanted them to be. And the high school is not as cooperative as the other schools, I will say. I've had a very large disagreement with the current principal. And anyway, but her teacher was wonderful, and I was scared to death, of course. She was going to the high school, you know. But the class ratio is still the same. So, and for the past couple of years, all but 1 year, I think that she's been at the high school. She's the only girl in the classroom.
Oh, wow.
So she's completely spoiled, as if she needs any help in that department. But her teacher is retiring.
Okay.
So
that's adding into
So that's adding to my anxiety. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna let her graduate. If I'm gonna make a change, I might as well just make one change and go into the other. But every mom, every parent I have talked to, India's parents, every parent I have talked to has said no. No matter how bad it might seem at the school at the district level, keep them in public school as long as you can.
Okay.
And so I really was like, my husband and I talked about it, and, we struggle, even though now we have waiver, which took us 10 years to get. Care for her during the summer and stuff is a battle.
Yeah, so you've got Medicaid waiver after a wait of 10 years. Okay, yes. So, okay, we'll talk about that later, but, so what your Medicaid waiver allows for someone to come into your
They
home?
can come into my home, or she can go to theirs.
Okay,
But it provides her a caretaker, someone to take her out, take her into the community during the summer and Christmas breaks. The current person that's had her, Miss Denise, she has her grandkids too, and they love Shelby.
oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so that allows you to keep working then when Shelby's
Yes.
out of school.
And she'll take her, to the library, or they'll go to Chick-fil-A or something, so
Good.
they do get out,
Mm-hmm.
and do things, and
Mhm.
so, and then she'll bring her home.
All right.
So it does give me a little bit of a break. It's been a lifesaver, and she's fixing to retire.
Oh, no.
So I'm losing two very
Yes.
important people
Yeah.
within a couple months of each other,
Wow.
and it's,
So if you do decide to let her graduate, what will you be looking at as a next step?
there are several adult day centers.
Right.
The ones closest to home for me are Civitan Services in Bryant, and
Mhm.
also Friendship Community Care.
Mhm.
And I've looked into both of them. Currently, Shelby's waiver services are through Civitan.
Mhm.
I know several people there, and they seem to all know Shelby. A lot of the kids that she went to high school and junior high with are there, because
Mhm.
they're adults now.
Right.
So there's probably 5 or 6
Mhm.
that we know.
Mhm.
And when we went forward, everywhere we went, somebody said, "Oh, Shelby!"
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
So that social connection piece of it is gonna be, sounds like important.
It is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
It's probably more important to me
Yeah,
than
exactly.
to her,
Yeah.
because some of these girls are, she'll be so small.
Mhm.
She's so tiny,
Yeah.
and because she stopped growing, 2 years ago. And she is maxed out, height, weight, all that
Yeah.
good stuff. She's still very tiny. To look at her, you really think she's probably maybe 12.
So it's like for all these other girls,
She's
she's
the
like
baby,
the little.
and they did it when they were in school with her.
Yeah.
They all want to take care of
Yeah.
her, they all
Yeah.
want to protect
Yeah.
her, which is
Okay.
great.
Uh-huh.
And
Did she enjoy that?
sometimes,
Yeah. Okay.
she has her space issues.
Yeah.
She will get to where,
Yeah.
enough is enough.
Yeah.
She likes to hold your hand and walk around with you, but don't get in her face.
Yeah.
So, and that's one thing these girls want to do, is they want
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Boundaries may not always be there, right?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
trying to protect her
Okay.
from everyone else, and
Yeah.
it's very sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I worry about it, because
Yeah.
right now we're at a 7 to 10
Mhm.
per adult ratio, which is what we've done her whole life.
Yeah.
And in adult centers, it's more like there's 2 adults to 20 or 30.
Yeah, yeah. I've had several students who have gone and done fieldwork placements in some of the adult centers, and have just fallen in love with them.
Well, I need some feedback on those centers.
I I've had students come back and say, I wish there was a job in that. I loved it, so
I don't
that's,
know why there's not.
yeah. I wish we could get more OTs.
And
in
one
some
thing I
places.
learned, and something I don't know that you even know, but I found this out looking at possibly letting her go ahead and graduate. If I let her graduate before she's 21,
Mhm.
she can't get any therapy services,
Yeah.
not PT, speech, or OT,
Yeah,
because it is offered in the public school system.
yeah.
And I was like, that's not fair.
Well, and, we've talked a little bit about it in class too. The fact she's in high school and still getting it is pretty impressive as far as Bryant schools go. A lot of school systems really
Or
start.
you have to fight for it.
Yeah. So that's probably a testament to you also,
Yeah.
yeah.
But, yeah, a lot of school
Yeah.
districts have to
Yeah.
fight for it. I have to say that we are very blessed in Bryant.
Yeah.
We have some very good connections in our area. The director of Special Olympics Arkansas, her children go to Bryant.
Oh, okay.
So she is very involved. And her
Right.
mom, who is Shelby's Sunday school teacher also, she is a para in the school district.
Oh,
So there's lots of advocates.
yeah.
And,
Good.
people that know people, and,
Mhm.
so we're very blessed that, I think that might be part of why there is,
Yeah.
we've never had any problems. The person that's overseeing her physical therapy, her entire time she's been in Bryant schools, is the same person. And apparently, he does stuff over at Civitan. So when
Okay.
she transitions to there, she
Yeah.
will still have him.
Yeah. Good.
So that makes me feel
Yes. Yeah.
there's pros and cons to it. Adult day centers are year-round. I wouldn't have to worry about summer care,
Yeah.
Christmas break, things like that. Weeks like this with coronavirus.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's a different environment. Shelby's nonverbal, it terrifies me.
Yeah.
All the kids, they're adults, they have adult, emotions,
Mhm. Drives.
physical drives.
Yes.
And so, I've heard stories
Right. Yeah.
of kids, you say kids, they're adults, but,
Exploring, is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Yes.
and so that terrifies me,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Shelby
Yeah.
does not even
Right.
comprehend such
Right.
things.
Right. But she still physically feels things,
Yeah.
perhaps.
And so, I worry about, and she can't tell me if somebody's
Yeah.
hurt her.
Right.
She's just gonna act out.
Yeah.
And then, so that terrifies me.
Yeah. Oh, that is scary. Yeah. Yeah.
So watching out for those kind of things, I have no doubt there are a few kids I have encountered, that have been in class with Shelby at times. I'm like, is that how they really are, or is somebody doing something to them?
Right.
Because they have some very odd behaviors,
Yeah.
and even for a special
Right.
needs child.
Right.
So,
Right.
people take advantage of.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
It's
just statistically true
Yes,
that
it is.
there is increased risk.
So it does
Yes.
worry me
Yeah.
about the male population, even though she's been in a classroom full of guys.
Right.
But all of our teachers are female, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they're all very,
You feel safe, you feel
Yes.
like she's being, watched and,
in a bigger environment with 20 or 30, and it's not all boys, I'm not saying
Right.
that, but
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is scary. Yeah.
so.
Thinking forward into the future a little bit further, have you and your husband started having discussions about you guys aging? I know these are tough things to think about and to talk about.
Yes, Johnny, my husband, has never been very hands-on with Shelby.
Right.
She's a girl, she still wears diapers, all that kind of stuff, and
Mhm.
he's like, mm-mm.
Right.
There was a day I don't remember if it was last summer, it was past Christmas break, but she woke up and her bowels had finally moved,
Right.
and she made a big old present, and it was everywhere, and he calls me, and I'm already at work.
No.
He calls me at 9 o'clock and says, we kind of have a problem. And I was like, what? He said, she's really happy. She's in a very good mood. She's eating Pop-Tarts. I was like, okay, what's wrong? He says, well, she's kind of got a mess everywhere. And I was like, okay. I'm just sitting here going, duh.
Yeah.
But he's like, and I don't know what to do. I said, throw her in the shower, clothes and all, and strip her down. And he's like, honey, No, I'm not comfortable doing that. And I said, seriously? I said, call the neighbor. I already tried. She didn't answer. I was like, oh, okay. I had to leave work
Oh, no. Yeah.
and go home. Thank God we don't live that far away.
Yeah.
And give my child a shower and get her cleaned up so he could go take her to the sitter.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know what to do. And God love him, he was embarrassed, but he would have been more embarrassed if he had to strip his daughter naked.
Yeah.
So, things like that, he's totally useless. I mean, I hate to say it, but he is. I mean, she loves her daddy, and she'll tell you all day long.
Yeah.
She's daddy's girl.
Yeah.
I mean, she'll tell you, daddy's girl. And, she likes to ride in he's got a big truck, diesel truck, so it's loud, and she loves riding in the truck with daddy. So, he's the fun one.
Yes.
He brings her ice cream and
Yeah.
Twinkies and stuff, and so, they have their own little connection. But yeah, whenever it comes to real stuff.
But showers are not
He's
his forte.
Changing diapers, he's useless.
Yeah.
And I tell him that all the time.
Yeah.
Shelby's bowel issues, we have stuff we have to do, and I tell him, I said, you know what, I mean, just once,
Yeah.
once, I'd like for you to have to do this.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not even gonna dignify that with an answer, and I was like, you just need to walk in my shoes one day.
Yeah.
Because he's always had Marissa to do every day.
Uh-huh.
And since she moved out, it's been way different.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we've thought about, we've struggled over the years. There was several times. I won't lie, I didn't, I felt like if I'm gonna have to do this by myself, then I'm just gonna do it by myself. He does work and he does provide for us. He's a workaholic, to tell you the truth. And I don't know if he's naturally that way or if that's been his way of dealing with things. Because he, always got something gonna go. He raises a lot of farm animals, so we have a farm outside, which is his domain. And I think that's a way to distract him from some stuff.
Yeah.
We've struggled with having time together. Me, he gets upset with me because the minute Shelby's gone somewhere doing something, and even when she was going to camp and stuff, I see that as a breather.
Yeah.
And he immediately thinks
Oh, it's my turn. It's my turn. Yeah.
And I'm like, leave me alone. So that's a big struggle. Is as much as I love Shelby, and as much she's taught me so much, but there are times when I feel suffocated.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
And so then whenever he starts demanding things of me, I'm like, so that's a real struggle for parents.
Right.
I remember when Shelby first got diagnosed and we went and saw genetic counseling at Children's, which was not a pleasant experience. They told me a few very ugly things, actually. They said that 80 to 90% of couples do not make it and end up in divorce. And they also told me that I needed to be prepared that someday I would have to put her in an institution. And that is my number one goal in life, is to not do that.
Not do that.
If she has to go in one, I'm going into bed with her. We'll share a room. I've told my husband that, when the time comes, we both go to nursing home together. That's just how I feel about it. It's until I'm not in my right mind, and or I absolutely physically cannot do anything, that's not gonna, it's not gonna happen. We have our own health issues, but it's hard for me to go do things and what have you. I've tried going to the gym a few times, and I'll get to feeling real good, and then she'll get sick, and then I'm stuck at home again, and I don't mean that ugly, just, that's one thing my husband and I argued about, is he doesn't comprehend that he can walk in and out that door any time he wants, and doesn't think a thing about it. Me, I either have to take her with me or make sure he's watching her. And, it's a problem. And if she figures out I've left the house without her, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he, we have a new thing, not really new, but if I'm going to sneak out of the house, I literally have to sneak out. I send him a
Wow.
text
Yeah.
message,
Yeah.
I don't say the words
Yeah.
or nothing.
Yeah. Well, and I, I think this fits back to what, you mentioned early on, she's at that 4 or 5-year-old level, and that is a time when it is harder to, get away by yourself.
That's what she's used to. She's
Yeah.
used to always
Yeah.
having me.
Uh-huh.
And she always had me or her sister.
Mhm.
And Daddy was always in and out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So
what
that's
he
just
does.
always been the way it's been.
He's got a
Yeah.
shop, he's got an old truck he
Yeah.
works on, he's got all the
Yeah.
animals he feeds and all that kind of stuff, so he goes in and out, and in and out.
Yeah.
So there are mornings, like this morning,
Yeah.
whenever she's at home and I leave her sleeping and he's still asleep too,
Yeah.
and I worry to death.
Yeah.
There have been times where I've had a sitter come over and say, okay, be there about 8:30, he should be up by then.
Yeah.
And it's my neighbor, and she's got a key to my house, and she would come over, and Shelby's been up. And Shelby she's hungry, obviously, because
Yeah, yeah.
she's been in the refrigerator,
Yeah, yeah.
and there is the refrigerator door standing wide open, there's stuff everywhere.
So your husband sleeps well, is what you're saying?
It amazes me what he can sleep through. It just shocks me, it terrifies me.
Yeah.
So there are times that if she wakes up before I leave the house on days like today, I will go put her in my bed,
Yeah,
give her her iPad, and
yeah,
I will shut my bedroom door.
yeah,
Because that way,
yeah.
she can't get into anything, because it worries me
Yeah.
to death. I have to lock the door, because she can open the door and get out. So
Yeah.
I have to make sure I lock the
Yeah.
door, because
Yeah.
she will go to that door and bang on that door,
Yeah.
throw a pit and throw herself on the floor right in front of it.
Yeah,
And my husband won't deal with it, he just
Yeah.
lets her, he says, just let her cry.
yeah.
Because he can't figure out how to console
Got
it.
it.
He is not that huggy-feely,
Yeah,
he does good with her,
yeah,
but there's a limit.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
mm,
yeah.
yeah, Shelby will tell you everything she wants. She's hungry, she wants cookies, she's gonna go pull the cookies off the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to put things where she can't reach them sometimes, and, but she displays her needs quite well.
Is there anything you feel like it would be important for our students to know that
Yes.
we haven't gotten a chance to say?
Yes, you will find, I'm sure you probably already know this, but once you get into it, especially working with children, every parental dynamics is different. You're gonna have some that are very, very involved, like me, that you might hate because I'm too involved. And then you're gonna have others that could care less. And those are the ones that really break your heart. I've seen that. And, I consider myself reasonable. I know that you're the professional and I'm the mom. And, the first school she went to, Access, that is the very first thing the director told me. We are here to do this. You just be mom. Don't worry about this. And it's very hard to separate, especially when your child is nonverbal. But asking questions is ask. Some people may be offended by it. The whole world is offended by everything. But, if you don't ask, you don't know.
Right.
And then just be considerate of the fact that there are parents who don't care, and be that patient's advocate
Yeah.
completely. That is always your role. And you are gonna have unreasonable parents. I know a parent in the school district that is absolutely horrendous. OMG, that's all I'm gonna say. I can't deal with her, and I'm like,
Yeah,
seriously?
yeah,
She's so rude and hateful and tells everybody what they need to do and how they need to do it. And yet, she don't really care. So just, and if you come across anything while you're in school or something Melissa knows how to find me, come find me. I'm happy to answer any questions or give some guidance. There's not much I haven't been through thus far.
Well, I want to thank you for being so open and honest and sharing your journey.
Well, if I,
This
it's
morning.
part of
Yeah.
education.
Yeah, well,
I mean, that's why there's so many, I hate to use the word ignorant people in this world because they don't know.
yeah.
And, some kids like Shelby, people are scared of them.
Yeah.
Her, my future son-in-law, when he first came around Shelby, didn't know what to expect or how to be or anything, because she
Yeah.
drills a lot and
Yeah.
stuff. And, there's certain things that, it's not real comfortable, but don't ever shrink away from a child.
Yeah.
I've actually had somebody do that.
Yeah.
Well, not just one person, but it's not, it's not nice.
No, it's not. Yeah, we've kind of gotten into that discussion in past years about the public
Some people,
encounters,
have, she drills a
Yeah.
lot, so a lot of
Yeah.
people have issues with that.
Yeah,
And I understand.
Yeah.
Some people, some bodily functions are just harder to deal with than others, okay? You even have some nurses in the nursing field, they can handle poop all day long, but don't let nobody throw up.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that from different
Yeah.
people, even
Yeah.
some of the pairs in her classrooms.
Yeah,
And some people, the respiratory stuff, they
Yeah.
can't handle.
yeah,
Everybody's different, but
Uh-huh.
just handle it in a professional
remember,
manner.
there's a person behind
Yeah.
those body fluids too, right?
Yeah,
And yeah.
just
Yeah.
always think along the
Yeah.
lines, if this
Yeah.
was my little sister or
Yeah.
my child,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
even if you're working with adults,
Mhm.
if this was my grandmother,
Mhm. Yeah.
that's the best advice I can give you, is just put yourself in, if that was yours.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Cut there, Richard and John.